Today, we are going to be talking about underage drinking, a topic many of you are all too familiar with. This is Kylie, and my major is Health and Human Performance, and I'm a junior.
My name is Allison. I'm a junior and I'm a psych major.
Hello, my name is Cam Mangan, and I am studying health enhancement or physical education and health, and I'm a senior.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Carpenter. I'm a junior studying Health and Human Performance pre-professional.
Ethical questions regarding changing the drinking age. Lowering the drinking age to 18 can cause a higher risk of injury to more people. Who is responsible for these accidents caused by drinking alcohol? As we see in class in the slide about the 10 most common ways to die within the age group 15 to 24, accidents were very high up on that list. Lowering the drinking age would not only increase the number of accidents in this age group, but most likely increase the number of accidents in the age group below as well. In the US, when you turn 18, you are considered an adult with new rights and privileges that minors do not get. Should one of those rights include the ability to drink alcohol at that age? If we are allowed to vote or gamble, shouldn't we be allowed to drink? Is 2 years of driving experience enough before you can legally consume alcohol? Most people start driving at 16 or older, and if the drinking age is 18, they would only have 2 years of experience. Changing the drinking age to 18 would only increase the risk of drinking and driving. If we changed it to 18, that would mean a large percentage of kids would be able to drink legally. Instead of these kids sneaking around drinking at a house with friends, they would be allowed into the bars and would eventually need a ride home or end up driving home. Regulated environments like bars could help lower the risk of unsafe drinking activities by kids, but they will still be unsafe regardless of where they're going to drink because their brains are not fully developed by that age. Changing the drinking age to 18 would give parents more of a responsibility to educate their kids on ways to avoid drinking and driving. They can also teach them about drinking before they leave for college. Kids could learn how to drink at home rather than when they turn 21 in college and they're on their own and do not know any better. Parents can also teach their kids how to drink casually instead of binge drinking and how to be safe about drinking and driving, along with the real consequences of a DUI. If they're comfortable with it, they can also offer rides home to their children as well to prevent the number of kids who drink and drive.
During COVID-19, most people were isolated, and for the majority of people, at some point during this pandemic, they were stressed out. Stress often turns to looking for a coping mechanism, and this year for quite a few people, that was alcohol. Stress is one of the biggest factors as to why young people start drinking. Alcohol is the most commonly abused substance in the United States. In Wyoming, 16% of adults had increased their alcohol consumption, but the state has no way of knowing how much was going to underage drinkers. There were a lot more people in Wyoming purchasing spirits and wine during the pandemic. The reason for the jump? Boredom, isolation, and stress. Alcohol consumption may weaken the immune system, disrupt sleep patterns, and make individuals more susceptible to COVID-19. Underage drinking during isolation was increasing at rapid speeds. I posted a survey on my personal Facebook page asking my friends and family their opinions. I had 40 people. During COVID-19, most people were isolated, and for the majority of people, at some point during this pandemic, they were stressed out. Stress often turns to looking for a coping mechanism, and this year for quite a few people, that was alcohol. Stress is one of the biggest factors as to why young people start drinking. Alcohol is the most commonly abused substance in the United States. In Wyoming, 16% of adults had increased their alcohol consumption, but the state has no way of knowing how much was going to underage drinkers. There were a lot more people in Wyoming purchasing spirits and wine during the pandemic. The reason for the jump? Boredom, isolation, and stress. Alcohol consumption may weaken the immune system, disrupt sleep patterns, and make individuals more susceptible to COVID-19. Underage drinking during isolation was increasing at rapid speeds. I posted a survey on my personal Facebook page asking my friends and family their opinions. I had 40 people respond, and the majority of them were underage. 92.5% of them also said that they had drank underage. I also wondered if they had found themselves drinking more in quarantine, no matter if they were legally allowed to or not. 55% said that they weren't, but the number of drinks ranged from 1 to 16 a week. Increased boredom, school closures, social distancing, and economic shutdowns were factors in the why and also the how young people were obtaining alcohol. There are many reasons someone underage may want to start drinking. Peer pressure, experimentation, instant gratification, and rebellion are just a few. Alcohol sales were up 243%, and in-store sales were up 55%. Many consequences to underage drinking. Consequences like school problems, such as failing grades and higher absences, legal problems like DUIs or hurting someone while under the influence. There are higher risks for both suicides and homicides, and underage drinking can lead to changes in brain development. Some of those changes can have lifelong effects. It's also been known that underage drinking presents a risk of alcohol dependence and problematic drinking in the future. Young people who drink before they turn 15 are 6 times more likely to become dependent on alcohol than their counterpart who waited until they were 21. Looking at a study done in 2015, pre-pandemic but rationalizing the same things, they found a link between social isolation and drinking problems. The study used rats to see how social isolation would increase the risk of addictive behaviors. They had 2 groups of rats. One was the normal, non-isolated group, and the other was isolated for their first 42 days after birth. In adulthood, they monitored the rats' voluntary alcohol consumption, finding out that the rats who had been isolated were consuming higher levels of alcohol compared to the non-isolated group. Social isolation leads to an increase of alcohol consumption. It's important to be encouraging everyone, but especially teenagers and children, to be safely interacting with their peers during quarantine. To have peer interaction, it will make it less likely for them to develop negative adulthood drinking patterns.
Now we're going to talk about the pros to lowering the drinking age to 18. First off, it lessens unsafe drinking. 18 is the age of being adult for everything else, as in voting, the right to serve your country, and also the right to be tried as an adult in court. So if we think that 18-year-olds are mature enough to do those things, they should be also able to drink in public. Also, number 2, it lessens the accidents related to alcohol DUIs. We are one of the few countries that still have 21 as the legal age. As you see in this graph, we are the short, tiny box that is kind of tan gray that has the drinking age at 21. And if you move to the orange box all the way around to red, those are all of the countries combined that have a drinking age of 18 or less, or they just have no law against drinking at all. So you can see we definitely are in the minority. In these countries, they've noticed a greater decrease of accidents associated with driving under the influence of alcohol compared to us in the US, where 21 is the legal age to drink. Also, reason 3, it gets rid of the thrill drinking. Young adults won't binge drink as much as they have seen in these countries. The ages of 18 to 20 frequently are the top ages to binge drink because it kind of gives them that high of breaking the law. Normalizing alcohol consumption as something done responsibly in moderation will make drinking alcohol less of a taboo for these young adults entering college and the workforce. Now we move on to reason number 4. Prohibiting this age group from drinking in bars, restaurants, and other licensed locations causes them to drink in unsupervised places such as fraternity houses, house parties, or somewhere in the woods where they may be more prone to binge drinking and other unsafe behaviors. Binge drinking, as you can see in this graph, shows that it is having a blood alcohol content of 0.08 grams or above when you consume 4 or more drinks as a woman or 5 or more drinks as a man in less than or about 2 hours. 42% of college students report binge drinking. Number 5, we see that teens have been known to consume alcohol regardless. The law is somewhat ineffective in this area. According to the National Center of Addiction and Substance Abuse, underage drinking accounts for 17.5% or $22.5 billion of consumer spending for alcohol in the United States. We also see that 68.3% of students and adults aged 18 to 20 have drinking alcohol. Then we come to our last point, number 6. It lessens the deaths related to underage drinkers scared to ask for help. So lowering the age to 18 would reduce the number of underage people who are hurt from alcohol-related injuries or accidents due to the fear of legal consequences if they sought medical attention. Now some did you know facts. Although many believed that anyone under the age of 21 is prohibited from consuming alcohol in the United States, underage drinking is allowed in 29 states if done on private premises with parental consent. 25 states if it is for religious purposes, and 11 states if it is for educational purposes. Also, underage drinking accounts for 17.5% or $22.5 billion of consumer spending for alcohol in the United States, and an estimated 2 of every 1,000 occasions of illegal drinking by youth under 21 results in an arrest, just 2 out of 1,000, showing that it isn't a high police priority to enforce the law. Another thing relating back to our last slide is at the University of Montana, if you are underage drinking and one of your friends or someone at the party you're at is needing medical attention, you can call and you will be offered immunity, mainly because we want our students to seek medical attention and get the help they need, regardless of if they're breaking the alcohol laws or not.
Underage drinking increases the possibilities for problems in the future, which I will get into here in a second. The NHTSA estimates that the minimum drinking age of 21 has saved around 31,959 lives. During the late 1960s and 1970s, almost all of the states had lowered the drinking age to 18. By lowering the drinking age to 18, they ended up having a huge increase in alcohol-related car accidents. They deemed drunk driving a public health crisis. They ended up raising the drinking age to 21 in 1984. According to NIH, drunk driving accidents have dropped 50% since the law was passed. Underage drinking can interfere with brain development since the brain is still developing well into adulthood. With underage drinking, there tends to be risk involved. You have the vulnerability that comes with consuming alcohol. You get hindered judgment and don't always make the best decisions. You have the possibility of getting yourself into dangerous situations, which could involve passing out in the street, getting mugged, maybe hurting yourself or someone else, whether it be on accident or not. You have the possibility of getting into a physical fight. You can even risk your future. You could end up with a DUI or something even worse. If you wanted to get into the military, your chances would be ruined. So there are possible consequences to think about for the future as well. There is a risk of alcohol use disorder. Those who have their first drink before 15 are 6.5 times more likely to experience alcohol use disorder. Then, of course, you have drunk driving, where car crashes are the leading cause of death for minors. More than 25% of all traffic-related deaths are directly due to alcohol impairments, and around 800 people per day are injured and 30 people die. Biologically, there's a lot that can go on when you drink alcohol. In your brain, there's an interference with communication pathways, changes in mood and behavior. Alcohol makes it harder to think clear and makes coordination much more difficult. If you drink over a long period of time or too much all at once, you could experience an irregular heartbeat, a stroke, high blood pressure, or stretching or drooping of the heart muscle. If you are a heavy drinker, you can develop a fatty liver, alcoholic hepatitis, fibrosis, or cirrhosis. In your pancreas, you could develop pancreatitis. Your immune system also gets compromised and is an easier target for disease.
Here are the sources. Thank you so much for listening.